sweated blood for these men. Given up my wife, my children for these men. I've given up everything I have for these men.
Podcasts
is all that matters to me. Because it's pure. It's safe. Life isn't.
Any given Tuesday, a legend will fall.
I need you to lead this team.
ML.
I'll be there for you.
I am not re-signing
Sean Windsor.
no matter how great he was.
Cap helped build this franchise, which you benefited from.
Don't you give up on me. You're like a son to me.
Sean.
I'll fight for you till the day I die.
You asked interrogative questions right in my face. Gone.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
That is not paid for by them. That is paid for by the people of Detroit.
You might be qualified, ML.
I'm not qualified for this job.
Let me tell you something. You want to go right now? Okay? You want to go right now?
It's so good to be with you, my dear friends. We thought we would try something different today on ML Soul of Detroit. We thought we would have a prominent and popular and successful sports writer from the Detroit Free Press on the show. Many people said, I thought you did that every week. And I said, no, we have Sean Windsor. And Sean's wife said, you got that right.
Actually, my wife just sent me a photo of a bunch of chicken bones picked clean on top of the recycle bin. And we were wondering how the hell they got up there. You know, we put them in the trash, so we're thinking, did the raccoon get in there, pick them clean, and just sort of leave them for us? You know?
I think that was Lisa Bonet and Angel Heart you're thinking about.
Okay.
If some guy named Louis Cypher shows up and offers you a deal, just pass. Just
okay.
That's a great reference that hardly anybody knows.
That's a no sale. That's
well, he doesn't reference anything before. Well, when was that? Like the
86,
Angel Heart was in the late 80s?
Mickey Rourke still had mostly his own face at that point, so it was quite a while
Do
ago.
people even know Mickey Rourke anymore?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, Mickey Rourke.
Dave has, by the way, never seen a movie. So
Dave Burkett.
Yeah.
From the Detroit Lions, beat writing for the Detroit Free Press,
Yes.
Freep.com, also known as The Morning Friendly.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we're going to get to Dave in just a minute. We also have a special guest, a gentleman who helped me celebrate my wedding anniversary on Friday. He has free.
What does that mean?
He has free vehicles that will transport you from point A to point B. And after he asked me how long I'd been married, and I said 100 years with no time off for good behavior, I said, how fast can you get one of those free vehicles over here to ferry me to safety? So we will be talking in just a minute to Damon Dickens of Guest carts, which are available in downtown Detroit. You may have read about them in the Detroit Free Press. While you're sitting there waiting for Uber or Lyft to finish delivering all their DoorDash, which they seem to do more than delivering humans from point A to point B, Damon is on the streets trying to get you where you need to go. And we're gonna talk to him a little bit about how that is going and just how fast you can go in one of these little buggies when you get in them. But first, I want to tell you about a ride that's not free, but it's worth every penny, especially if you can get somebody else to pay for it, which is what I do now because I'm unemployed and my wife is the only one making money. Damn, I should have thought of that before I started talking shit on our anniversary. I'm so stupid. Anyway, if you're looking for a new ride, may I recommend Roy O'Brien Ford in St. Clair Shores. They are 75 years in the business. You want to take that right track to 9 Mile and Mac. They will hook you up with new, used, leases, all kinds of rides. You want a Bronco, you want a F-150. I think they probably even have the E-Mustang, which is pretty sweet. Mm-hmm. Even in that funky blue color. They will help you get the ride you've been looking for. You can go to their website, royobrien.com. That's ROYOBRIEN.com. Check out Fast Track while you're there. It lets you choose your vehicle and options, but that's not all. You can pick your deal. You want to lease, finance, or pay cash? That would be nice, right? Get the value of your trade-in, apply for financing, and even schedule delivery of your sweet new ride. When you go to their website, Jesse will be there to help you navigate the site. If you go in person, they have a friendly, helpful, and professional staff that will put you in the ride of your dreams. Go to royobrien.com to find out more or dial 888-566-5851 or just walk in the dealership. It's right there at the corner of 9 Mile and Mac. It's a lovely modern showroom where they will take care of you. And when you get there, make sure that you tell them ML Soul of Detroit told you to get there so that they could take care of you.
Yeah.
It's probably a quicker way to say that, but just let them know we told you to go there. And by the way, the M over my shoulder, there's supposed to be a big L next to it. I don't know what happened with that. Mark's messing around, but
oh yeah, I forgot how much the black M bothers you.
He's still orgiastic after Chelsea won the Champions League. By the way, nobody else knows what that means. We'll be talking about some real football later with Dave. But first, let's bring Damon in. Damon, so I see these crazy little driverless carts tooling around downtown that I think Dan Gilbert or somebody had out there, and now you're the new kid on the block. Tell me where you get these rides and
what are they?
How'd you get into it? Yeah.
Okay. GAS stands for Green, Easy, Safe Transportation. They are electric vehicles. We are a free ride share transportation company. We're similar to Uber and Lyft, where if you're downtown in the Corktown, Midtown, Greektown area, let's say, for instance, you're having dinner in Midtown and you want to go to the Riverwalk just to do a quick walk around and enjoy some time with your family. You would go on the app and we'll come pick you up. You put in your start location, your drop off location, and we'll pick you up, drop you off there. You can also rate your driver also. Now, the reason that it is free is that it's paid for through sponsorships. So basically, let's say you have a business. So let's say you're the Detroit Lions or so.
Or a failing podcast to be another business you could involve.
Well, let's just say, you know, ML Reddick. Let's just use your name. Okay. So let's say you had a business, you wanted to wrap the cart in your brand. So let's say your face, your name, whatever you wanted to wrap the cart in, you would wrap the cart in that, and we would go all throughout the downtown Greektown area, and people would see your brand. With the sponsorship, that allows us to give free rides out to the residents and the visitors that come down to the city of Detroit.
How much do these carts cost? I mean, they look pretty big. I can't imagine they're cheap.
No, they're not. We're actually a franchise. We're in Cincinnati, Chicago. We're launching in Denver and Seattle and Charlotte later on this year. So I seen the concept and I said, wow, that'll definitely work in the downtown Detroit area. So I went to Cincinnati to take a look at it and see how it worked. And I brought the franchise here because I know this was prior to the pandemic, of course, when, I wanted to be a part of the new beginnings with the downtown, the comeback of the downtown Detroit area. And I wanted to bring some entertainment value and also bring some jobs too.
Have you ever had Arnold Schwarzenegger get in the back of one of them and say, "Take me to Mars"?
No, but that's an interesting question.
Not quite.
Because, being free, my first thought is, okay, how are people going to abuse this? If I left the Lions game, could I get a ride, I don't know, to Lansing? I mean, how far?
No, we can't go that far. We're just going to be in and around the downtown, Corktown, Midtown, Eastern Market area. So, I'm glad you brought the Lions up. So we know that there's a lot of tailgating going on in the Eastern Market on game day. So we're going to be fixated in that area. So we're going to be transporting. We're going to be transporting the guests that's going to be going to Ford Field to check out the game back and forth. We've really just been waiting on the state to open up. We did launch on opening day, but of course, it was only so many people that could get to the game. So we did do some transportation in between the park and the parking lots.
So what did you do before you decided to get into this? Because this feels like a pretty big gamble. And then you do it just before the pandemic. It's like, damn.
Right. Well, we were planning on launching. We were going to launch on the auto show when the auto show was going to have their opening weekend on the river. Because remember, initially they moved the auto show to the actual riverfront. So we were looking to launch then, but of course, with the pandemic and everything, that shut everything down. So we have been going through some restraints due to the fact of the timing of everything, but we're going to keep pushing through because we know it is a product that we think would definitely work in this area because we're bringing free rides to the city, but we're also allowing corporations to get their brand seen. I mean, let's say you advertise on a billboard on Michigan Avenue, okay, for example. The only people that's going to see your brand is people that drive down Michigan Avenue. And we all know everybody does not drive down Michigan Avenue. But if you advertise with us, everybody in the downtown, Courtown, Midtown, Greektown area will see your brand. And we all know you have people from all over the state and all over the country that may be coming down to visit that will see your brand. So I believe we offer a unique way of marketing your business.
And do you guys ever get into like drag races with the Dan Gilbert carts that are down there?
No, they stopped running this year. They're not running the electrical ones.
So you took them out.
Autonomous, I'm sorry.
You finished off Dan Gilbert.
No, we won't go that far. Damn. Now, I would love to wrap a cart in the Quicken Loans Rocket Mortgage brand. That would be great. They do have a lot of billboards downtown, so we're definitely open to that. And I really feel like each sports franchise should actually have a cart. The Lions should have one. The Red Wings, the Tigers. It's a great way for to transport the fans and also just for for the brand to get out here.
Well, we feel they should all advertise on our podcast. If you have any luck with that, we're going to need that secret sauce when you next time I run into you at the Ivy. But
right.
Damon, tell folks how they can get one of these rides. Do they go 24 hours or do you start at a certain time and cut off at a certain time?
No, well, right now we're just running Thursday through Sunday from 4 to 8 on game days. We do extend the hours with the state opening back up. As of today, we're looking into extending the hours based upon the volume that we see downtown.
Okay, and how do people book a ride? Do they just flag you down, or they go on social media?
You can hail us down. You can download the app, guest carts. Also, we do rentals also, so you can rent it out for a couple hours. Let's say you and a couple of your friends wanted to just ride around downtown, take in the sightsee, enjoy your beverage, do karaoke. We have all that on the cart. Also, there is a fee for that. For our hourly rentals, there is a fee for that. Let's say you wanted to bar hop and you didn't want to, keep moving your cart. You can rent us for an hour. We can take you here, take you there, and bring you back. So, the method for that would be to contact us on guestcarts.com, or you can give me a call directly at 313-770-2273, or you can download the app and catch a ride.
Hey, real quick, what kind of cars are these? Like, who makes these things?
These are electric vehicles, and they're 6 passengers.
But who makes them?
Polaris.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, the snowmobile guys.
Yes.
And the missile guys.
Yes.
So can you get one with missiles on it in case those Gilbert guys come back?
I'm sorry?
I said,
it was a bad joke. Don't worry about it.
Polaris missiles in case the Gilbert guys come back, just sort of little James Bond action.
Right.
No?
Yeah, I told you it was a bad joke. You didn't need to worry about it.
Okay. Well, Damon Dickens of Guest Carts, thanks for coming on the show. Hopefully we will see you downtown. I know if I'm going down Michigan Avenue, I probably will need a ride from point A to point B.
Definitely. We appreciate you having us on. I definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, no, we want to support small businesses and
we are Detroit residents. We're born and raised Detroit. Let me emphasize that. We are born and raised Detroit citizens here. And we just, like I said, we want to bring value back to the city.
Detroit taking care of Detroit. It doesn't get much better than that. Damon, thanks very much. And we will probably see you downtown at some point.
Thank you. You have a great day now.
So we go from Damon to David from an endeavor that still has some hope of success to an endeavor that has no hope whatsoever for success at Detroit Lions.
Nice segue.
But David gives people hope. He's been writing about those old Lions, and people are excited about the Lions, and I don't understand.
What a terrible setup, Dave.
Look, I can't blame ML. I can't blame you, man. There's for years there has not been reason to be excited, right? So, but maybe there's a first time for everything, huh? We'll see.
It's a new regime. I mean, doesn't that provide people hope?
Yeah. No, look, I think Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes, new quarterback, it's a blank canvas. It's a fresh start for everyone. And so I think there is reason for hope if you're a Lions fan that maybe this thing is finally on the right track. But man, we are just getting out of the station, so there's no telling where this thing is headed. There's a lot of work still to be done.
How different is it dealing with the new guys as opposed to Patricia and Quinn? There's a little smirk on your face. A lot easier, I would take it.
No, I mean, it's early, right? They haven't played a game. So, I mean, Matt Patricia at this time, 4 years ago or whatever it was, 3 years ago, I think most people thought, well, maybe not this time, I guess, maybe a month before this time, because this time was when he was still dealing with reports of his sexual assault charge from when he was in college. But before that, things seemed like they were going to be hunky-dory with him in Detroit. So let's give it time. Let's see what happens in the fall. But no, look, I mean, I think the Lions have brought some good people in Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes and, but it's about getting the right players at the end of the day. You got to get the right players, the right quarterback. You got to do things right on the field. And we won't know if that's happening until, we see the results come Sundays in the fall.
Dave, kind of keeping with this theme, and I know you and I have talked about this a lot the last few months, but do you buy into the idea? Do you place stock in the idea that culture change can make a difference? I mean, obviously it is about the players, but we saw the letter from Sheila Ford Hamp, the owner of the Lions, was it December, to the staff, to the folks in the headquarters in Allen Park about how she kind of wanted a different vibe in the building. We saw how much she responded to Darrell Bevell when he was interim head coach, especially after they beat the Bears, and she commented about all that laughter coming out of the locker room, that's what she wanted. Do you think that matters in any way?
I do. I think just in general, right? Think about it just in the everyday, walk of life that you and I and everyone else lives, right? When you work for a boss who treats you well or a company that treats you well, I think that helps, people be productive, helps you get the most out of yourself. And so I do think that can have some impact. Now, that's not going to lead you to a Super Bowl. And ultimately, you're going to, if you don't experience success on the field, then, you're going to turn around and scratch your heads and say, what are we doing? Who are we playing for? So there's that element, absolutely comes into play at some point. But I do think that a culture change, a change of scenery for, Stafford, maybe that helps him in LA. Maybe it helps fans here appreciate him. Maybe it helps, them appreciate their new quarterback, whatever the case may be. I do think change can be helpful and it can be good in a lot of ways.
Dave, when I was at Michigan State working at the State News, one of my colleagues, Ricardo Cooney, covered, I think it was Michigan State women's tennis, or maybe it was men's tennis. And at that time, unlike now when they're pretty good, they were year in and year out, the worst program in the Big Ten, just horrible. And the coach had been there for 1,000 years. And every time Rico would come back from a match, it was always the same quote. Well, we're digging deep and we're hoping and we're working and we're, and it was just, Rico was such a effervescent guy. And I just thought this must drain his soul. And I wonder, you've been covering the Lions for enough regimes. Do you find yourself, when the new one comes in and there's all the hope and all the hype, saying to yourself, oh my God, how do I take these people seriously? Or do you say, you know what, until they prove that they're as bad as the last guys, I'm gonna help them spread a little pixie dust here in our fair city?
Yeah, look, I'm working on the book of bad football, I think, right? I covered John L. Smith at Michigan State and Rich Rod at Michigan. And
John L. was misunderstood.
Yeah, I love John L. I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro with him. So he was great people, but it was bad football, and my first full year on the Lions beat was 2008.
The
right?
kids played their hearts out. The coaches screwed it up. That was the difference.
That's right. Bam. No, look, I think you have to give people, an opportunity when they first come in. And, I don't know that there's no part of me that says, these guys don't know what they're getting into, right? I think there are so many different ways to win in the NFL, in so many routes that you can take to success that, just going the same path or a different path or having, someone who comes from the same coaching tree, none of that matters. It's all about what happens, what this regime does, what these people do going forward, and the people that they bring in. So until they prove differently, you have to give them the benefit of the doubt.
I always get exhausted by people like ML who just hate the Lions, don't want any part of them. And then there's the group that are like, I'm Lions free. And then they tend to watch every weekend. In your writings, have you seen, are more people clicking on it? Are people is it the same level of interest, or do they wane, or are they waning right now?
No, that it happens every fall, right? People are super optimistic. This is the
Fall
year,
springs
this is the
eternal.
year. And then, by mid-October, everyone's jumping off the bandwagon. And then they come around again in the spring, right? Oh, we got a new offensive coordinator, a new coach, a new GM, whatever it is. Oh, look what we did in the draft. So it's
ML's a
definitely
liar.
the same cycle every year.
No, I'm more concerned about Dave as a human being, because I wonder there's if you like science fiction, there are these things like the forever war where people are bred to fight a war and then they die and then they're regenerated and they go fight the war again and then they die and they're regenerated and they fight the war again, and because they're regenerated they don't really capture that much of the past experience, but sometimes it seeps in and then they lead a revolution and then all the slaves are freed.
God. We get it. We get the comparison.
But I just there's a part of me that wonders whether, every time there's a new group come in, that it just gets harder and harder to sort of fight that war and say, I want to be fair. I want to give these folks a chance to prove themselves.
Well, there's new
I
stories
want to
to
believe
cover.
that good things can happen.
God. Sorry, Dave. He's trying to get you to cut your wrists.
One is
I'm concerned about. So, and speaking of how long you give somebody, Sean's in year 2 of a open-ended contract. He's looking for an extension.
I don't know about that.
How long do you give somebody a chance to prove they can win? So far, Sean's plan for winning is we get the other guys to forfeit. 1-0's a win.
All right, so look, on the Lions thing, I mean,
yes,
I
please.
think part of
Sean,
it
what are
is,
you doing over there, troublemaker?
Yeah. Part of it is, as a journalist, you guys understand this, right? That there are new stories to tell. And so that's refreshing. But part 2 is, and, Sean said I can cuss on this, is I think I have a pretty big, don't give a fuck quotient about me. Like, I just don't. I mean, like, covering, this is a job, right? It's not my life. So as long as my kids are happy and healthy and, I get to spend time with them, like nothing that the Lions do is going to bring me down. I'll tell you a story. When we sat down with Matt Patricia, one of the very first, he's hired and he had little, sit downs with every single beat writer. And one of the things that Matt Patricia said to me in that one, and I'll never forget this because I think this was a big part of his downfall, was, and probably asked, they were 15 or 20 minutes long and he talks forever. So he probably got like 3 questions in. But one of the first things he said was, I got all these plans and I'm going to have you guys in. And, I know you're a Lions fan, so I want you to, understand what we're doing. And I couldn't stop and be like, no. I'm not a Lions fan, right? This is my job. So it doesn't matter to me one way or another, whether you win or lose or succeed or fail. Like, I'm still going to do my job. Certainly it makes my life easier when you win, but that doesn't prevent me from doing my job. And so I don't think Matt ever really understood that, or maybe it took him a year into the job to understand that just because you're the Lions coach, that doesn't matter to me, right? I'm going to cover you how I'm going to cover you based on the merits of what you do and everything that you're about. And so, that's really what this is, maybe people out there don't quite understand either. Like, I'm doing a job, and win or lose, like, I should be happy at the end of the day because, I got a couple of great kids at home and I enjoy my life and, everything else that goes with it.
And it must be convenient knowing that you only have to work 16 weeks out of the year.
Yeah,
18,
right.
17 games now plus the bye week. No. But
Yeah.
also, look, every January, you have a coaching search, a coordinator search, a GM search, there's something going on.
So when you're at the draft.
January,
Dave's
they're
working like
definitely
89.
not
I don't know when you do see your kids or coach your girls' basketball team. I understand he's undefeated because you're working 100 hours a week. But getting back to that theme real quick, Dave. And again, we've talked about this as a fellow sports writer, not nearly as gifted as you, of course, or Carlos Monarez. I mean, we got to drop his name here at some point. Fellow Freeper. In any case, I get that question all the time too. Do you root for the team? What I root for is a couple things. One, I like teams to win because it's better for the free press, right? Because we get more readers. People are more interested. They will hate read after a loss only for so long, and then they check out. So we like winning for that reason. And 2, we live in the community, and it's nice to see people get a little boost when one of the teams goes on a run around here. And it's because we're not robots. So we may not be fans at the games, but it is nice to go to the grocery store or whatever and see a little pep in the step when somebody goes on a run around here, because it's there's a psychological benefit to that. Do you have that same sense or a similar sense, Dave?
I was glad we got to a question.
I knew that was coming.
I'm Sean today. I love it.
No, I think that's fair. I mean, again, I think it's easier to cover a winner because, players are more apt to talk in the locker room and there's more going on that they want to share about their lives and, off the field. And, I've never covered a long playoff run, but I would much rather be covering that in January than, going through my fourth coaching search or whatever it is and writing stories on 10 different candidates that they're interviewing and only, a very small portion of them see the light of day because I'm just getting ready for stories that, people that they will never hire. So, I think there's definitely some benefits to covering a winning organization, but at the end of the day, I'm reporting on the team no matter what happens and writing about the people involved no matter what happens, and that doesn't change.
So you got to the Free Press to cover the Lions in 2008. That means you have had 4 coaching searches, and you sat down with all these guys. Who was your favorite coach to cover, and maybe your least favorite?
So I started the Freak in 2010, just 2010, so everyone knows that out there. 2008, I was at the Oakland Press, and I did that season with Rod Marinelli. But to your point, yeah, look, he wasn't a Lions coach, but my favorite coach to cover was John L. Smith, probably. I mean, he was, he was unique and colorful, and I like that. You don't need to be all about football for me to enjoy talking to you and writing about you and telling your story. Climbing Mount Kilimanjaro with John L. was an awesome experience. So that was he was probably my favorite coach to cover. And
were you at the State News when you did that?
It's just the people that don't give me access are my least favorite. Let's just leave it at that.
Were you at the State News when you covered John L.?
I was at the Oakland Press, I guess, was probably when I did that. Yeah.
Okay. And they had the budget to send you out to Mount Kilimanjaro?
So this is what happened. I asked John, one day I said, hey, he was going, I don't know, you may remember this, ML, he was going to Africa to go on a safari with his family, and he was going to, climb Kilimanjaro with his boys after, and they opened it up for donors. And so I asked him, I said, what do you think if I come along and do it? And he gave me the cowboy, like, yeah, come on, let's do it. And so I asked my boss at the Oakland Press, and they didn't want to spend the money, but they said if I found someone I could freelance it for, that, I was more than welcome to do it. So I did it for ESPN the magazine, ended up writing something for the Oakland Press too, but ESPN the magazine paid me a healthy enough, stipend as a freelancer to make it worth my while.
That's the kind of resourcefulness you need to cover the Lions beat. So before we move on to less important topics, John L. Smith, wife doesn't have cancer. He has a good place kicker. The coaches don't screw it up. Ends up being one of the most successful coaches in Michigan State history. True or false?
False. Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
who cares? You had one better after.
There was a lot going on there, but I just, I don't know. I like John L. as a person, as a coach. I thought, maybe there was, it's sort of like the Rich Rod thing to me, right? That maybe just the stars didn't align. The people in the building weren't all, the right people. And I think you need that to be successful. So I think John could have had some success, but not more than Mark D'Antonio had.
Well, during 2006 at the Super Bowl, I saw it all. So my theory was always, if I was a player and I sat down with dour Lloyd Carr or dynamic John L. Smith, I'd go to East Lansing.
Yeah, you're not biased at all.
And I was sitting. I was covering the Super Bowl for Channel 4, whatever. I just on the street. Lloyd Carr walks by. I was like, Coach Carr, hey. John L. walks by in his cowboy boots with a kid who, I don't know, maybe it was Alex Smith. It was some young guy. Nobody but me noticed him. He was as invisible as a street sweeper. And I thought, we are in a lot of trouble there in East Lansing, but that's the way it goes.
Actually, Mark, Lloyd Carr was not dour. He was,
not at all.
He was fun and dynamic.
He
just was that way at press conferences.
You know what?
And we're going to talk about press conferences here in a second. But
I've always said this about Lloyd. He's a lot like D'Antonio. The other side sees him as being this grumpy asshole, but all you ever hear is about the sense of humor there. And I know Lloyd's got a great sense of humor.
He brought Russell Crowe to the podium one time I was there at a state. Do you remember that? They'd met. He went to Australia to help him out, coach a Australian rules football team or something like that.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Russell Crowe shows up.
We had Gerard Butler.
They're palling around.
Well, they used what was the boxing movie he was in? That was one of the themes for that year.
Yeah.
So it was the John Krakauer book. into thin air.
Right.
Yeah, well, John L. climbed that mountain. He didn't just read a book.
Okay, great. Michigan State's the best ever. Jesus Christ, let it go.
Somebody's going to take this sign
Dave,
down over here.
Dave, I was talking to somebody who worked for the Lions, and we got on to Ndamukong Suh, and he felt that Ndamukong Suh was very misunderstood. Would you say Ndamukong Suh is maybe the most misunderstood player you covered, or are there other ones that were maybe more misunderstood?
I don't think he was misunderstood at all. I think everyone understood that his purpose was to
he was an asshole,
kick butt and be a good football player.
He seemed like fans really felt like he was an asshole.
I think that's really what he was about, and certainly he saw a path to do that in football, and he did it with the Lions and the contracts that he signed, and certainly off the field as well. So I think if you were around Ndamukong Suh, you understood that he was, there was one goal really in his mind. I mean, maybe he did come around and get closer to some people in the organization after he had been there for a few years, a little introverted, I guess, that way. But no, I think Ndamukong Suh was, there was no doubt about what he was about.
But I don't think fans really understood that, because he came across as kind of his plays on the field, stomping on quarterbacks. Yeah. I mean, he came across as kind of an asshole.
Running a woman off the road and not offering her a free car. That was an easy example. PR victory, and he just completely did not understand at all.
Hey, those were great people to cover too. So that's what I mean. Like, people have this same thing where they think like, I didn't like Ndamukong Suh or something. I love covering Ndamukong Suh. I thought he was a really good player, and I thought he was an interesting dude off the field, maybe because of some of that stuff. He didn't certainly like answering some of those questions when I would approach him at the locker about that. But, I have no problem with Ndamukong Suh. And like I said, one of the best, defensive tackles. I think this era, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame conversation. Do Lions fans completely understand? I think maybe they understood what he was about, because I think he's been written about, talked about so much, but I don't think they want their players to be about their team and football and winning and them. And that's not Ndamukong Suh, and that's not a lot of players. And so I think that's what's tough sometimes for fans to come to grips with.
Dave, what's it like to go up to a 300+ pound guy who could probably bench press your car and say, hey, I'm here from the media to ask you why you're such an asshole or why you suck? I mean, what's that like?
So, I definitely had my moments with Ndamukong where I went up to him at the locker, and he, didn't want to, one time I asked him about something. It was something that happened off the field. He told me to get out of his locker. And so I stepped back so I was far enough out of his locker and asked him again. And he, threw his hand down and walked off. And so I definitely had those moments. But again, honestly, like I enjoyed some of that interaction with Ndamukong, and some of the stuff that happened on the field. Like, that's just part of the story. Everyone's their own story, and so that being part of Ndamukong, I didn't hate that, and I hope Lions fans would realize, like, that's who he was. There was no act to him with any of that. Like, that's really who he was. And so when I've had interactions with him since he's left the Lions, they've all been, pleasant. Like, he's answered my questions at Super Bowls. And I'll tell you one other story. And again, I'm not naive enough to think that, there's not reasons for this. But at one point, when Ndamukong was, he had some issues that were going on off the field early in his career. And, these are all minor issues by comparing them to some things. But, I got a phone call one day. I was holding my daughter. She's 11 now. And so she was a baby and in my lap, and I got a call from a Portland area code, and I had no idea who it was. And I looked down and I was like, oh shit, what happened now? Maybe this was like after Sue had an accident in Portland, and, there was something going on. And I picked it up, and it was him. And he was like, Mr. Burkett, this is Ndamukong Suh. And I was like, whoa, what's going on? And he wanted to, he was going to be in town for a couple of days, and he wanted to sit down and have some lunch. And because, maybe to your point, Mark, he did think that he was a little misunderstood. And so again, I'm not naive enough. I know in this business, right, people are always out to, smooth the edges on their public, persona a little bit. And we did not end up sitting down because I was going to be out of town during the days that he was in. But that just gives people a little insight into, who Ndamukong Suh was a little bit more, that, he knew how he was perceived. Maybe he knew who he really was, and he, wanted to soften that appearance a little bit. But at the end of the day, he was a really good football player for the Lions. I thought he was a pretty interesting person. And obviously it's had a lot of success on and off the field.
What would you say is the thing you've covered in your career that you've dealt with that would most surprise people who think they know something about sports or about journalism or about the Lions?
Wow. That's, I don't know. I don't know that I have a really good answer for you there. I mean,
Sean came up with that question. Thanks, Sean.
Yeah.
Thanks, he must have. It was pretty short.
No, look, I think, it's definitely a delicate balance. Sometimes when you're reporting information, right? Like you may know things that you can't quite report, and so you can hint at them a little bit. But again, you guys sort of know how this is, right? Where you know something well enough to know it's true, but maybe it's not quite reportable yet. You need another source, or you need some confirmation, or somebody tells you something in confidence and they say, hey, you can't report this quite yet. So, and I just say this because I remember one time having a conversation with one of my buddies, and I'm not talking about injuries here specifically. I'm talking about a lot more important things than injuries. But, one of my friends, this was years ago, he was talking about fantasy football, and he was like, somebody reported this, but I don't believe it until the manager says it, or, the coach says it. I forget what sport we were talking about. And I was like, no, listen, if a reporter is reporting it, you should probably believe it, because we know a lot more than, we can report at times. And so I think maybe people don't grasp that we're trying to get as much information as we can, and not all of it is for public consumption at the moment that you have it.
What's your opinion on athletes that have to talk to the media? I mean, Marshawn Lynch is a famous example of, the union and the league makes you talk to the media and do press conferences. And he sat there and said, I'm here so I don't get fined. How important is that to your job?
Well, give the context quickly.
Well, Naomi Osaka, the tennis player, is probably the most recent example. She didn't want to talk to the media. She gets fined $15,000 and actually stepped away from the French Open because they want players to. That's a little different because she's an individual. They want players to talk to the media, but I don't know how you make somebody talk who doesn't want to talk. And the people I find that complain about it the most tend to be people in the sports media.
Yeah, and just a little more context too, right? In the NFL, players are required to talk once a week, and it doesn't always happen. And sometimes there can be hard feelings, or there's reason why guys don't want to talk, and sometimes it goes to the league, and guys get fined, like you mentioned with Marshawn. A whole bunch of there's a lot to that, but I understand. People may not want to talk all the time or anytime, and I do think there are things that give reporters a bad name, some of it not totally in their control, right? The Shannon Sharp thing with Julio Jones, when maybe Julio didn't know he was live, right? Like that's a reporter is not going to do that. An entertainment personality like Shannon Sharp may do that. But ultimately, and I think Lindsey Jones, who's the president of the Pro Football Writers Association, tweeted this the other day. When you allow open locker room access, when you mandate these interviews, I think it gives us, the people who tell these stories, the access that we get allows us to get to know the person so much better and therefore tell their story. And when it's only a press conference, when it's a Zoom press conference, when it's something that's, even if it's in person, there's not enough depth to really write anything substantial. And so you need some of that access, right? You need the one-on-one time with people to get to know them, to tell their stories, to allow the fan and the reader to get to know them better. So I think sometimes, even though I do understand why an athlete may not want to, do an interview, I think there's a little bit of a short-sightedness to that, because I think allowing the reporter who's going to write about you anyway some insight into your life, and some real, one-on-one time, I think that just opens it up for
the depth,
people to understand you better as a person.
The depth will benefit them, but I can't tell you anything great that's come out of a real press conference, post-game press conference from a coach or a player. They just tend to be phoning it in and saying, bland things. I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, it's going to change. I'm curious what you think too, Dave. I personally think it's going to change. It already has changed a lot because of social media, because the athletes can go straight to their fans, right? And with Osaka, that's kind of brought this up. Another part of this too is Europeans. A lot of Europeans think we're crazy. Speaking to sports media in America, because we go into the locker rooms, they don't.
Yeah.
I've covered an exhibition soccer match at Comerica Park a few years ago. And Zinedine Zidane, I think, who was the manager, he talked, and none of the players did. And the press that were covering that came from Europe said, no, we don't ever get access. The idea of walking into a locker room to them seems rude and invasive. And I wonder how much longer, especially with the pandemic, how much longer we're going to be able to do that. And I understand your point, and I agree. It does lead to better access to some degree when you have that one-on-one and you kind of can have casual conversations off the record. But there might be other ways to do that, because the idea of walking and waiting for somebody to put their clothes on so you can ask some questions, I don't know how much longer that's going to last.
Well, I think in Europe, the alternative they have is they get stalked on the street by people. So if I was an athlete, I'd say, let's stick with the U.S. model as opposed to the European model.
Well, you could set up, I mean, there are other ways to set things up, but to me, that's what this Osaka conversation, I mean, this has gone way beyond tennis, right? I mean, it's been the talk of the sports world the last couple of days. And I just am curious what you think, Dave, where this could be headed.
Yeah, I have fears about where it's headed too, that we may lose some of that access. And again, I understand, especially, given the pandemic, everything that's come out since then. I understand there are reasons for it, but, I think from the league standpoint too, in using the soccer model as an example, I mean, yes, Mark, like you said, there's nothing, great that comes from, press conferences typically, and the same goes for soccer mixing zones, I presume. Mm-hmm. But the power then shifts from the team being able to control the message in some way to the player, to that player's agent, to whoever the player is working for, whatever product they're trying to shill for a day, because those are the people then that make those athletes available, right? Like if you have a good relationship with that player's agent or the marketing agent, I think those people become all the more important. And in the NFL and in most sports, I would think that they would want to consolidate that power or keep as much of that power as possible within the teams. And so, I think there are reasons for the leagues to want to bring the model back. There are certainly reasons why we as reporters want to bring the model back. I think there are reasons for players too as well, even though you're right, players can control their own message and do more than ever, with social media nowadays. But, the other side to that is that I think most people, I hope at least, are smart enough to understand that, that's very one-sided, I guess, when those athletes have their own platforms and can release whatever information they want, and only that information.
Dave, what do you think about the feeling that's out there that, you guys will never say anything negative about a team because you don't want to have it's probably more applicable to columnists, but you guys don't want to be cut off by the team because they have plenty of other resources they could use?
I understand that. There's certainly people out there that think that, but I would just say, go and look what I wrote about the Lions the last, 8 months. I mean, it was, to me, you got to write what you believe, when it comes to opinions and columns and that sort of thing. And, I don't think it's any secret to any Lions fans, right? Matt Patricia didn't like me too much, but my bosses did. And that's all that matters to me. Again, that goes back to my, I don't give a fuck, quotient that I'm going to be fine. As I've heard reporters say this before, right? I've covered however many coaches before you. I'll cover however many coaches after you. I'm going to outlast you, right? I've definitely heard that approach to people, that reporters, that people in this business have. So it's just something that you can't get to. You can't worry about what people say about your opinions, good or bad. You can't worry about what teams, what people inside the building say, good or bad. Certainly I don't agree with everything that's written about the Lions, from columnists. But that's why we're our own people. We all have our own opinions on things. And believe me, I would never, hold information back, just to appease somebody. And what the access they might give me.
Well, it's always good to know when you're talking to a Lions coach that if you piss him off, that's a very temporary situation. That being the Lions coaching situation.
No, that's a good point. By the way, real quickly, teams, Dave, we should say this to Mark's question. Teams don't cut access. Like they're governed by their league, so they can't just cut access because we don't want some. A player might not talk to you or whatever, but fans kind of have that wrong.
They can make it difficult for people though to.
Well, they don't pull their cards. They don't tell you can't come in. They don't not give you the Zoom codes. They don't cut access in any way. They might not answer your question, but that's
typically
different.
Yeah. No, Sean's right, and there are certainly other ways that they can give more favored access to somebody else, which may grind you a little bit more. And
like a one-on-one with the general manager.
Talk to the people about that. But you know what? Again, at the end of the day, like, especially in football, right? If you offend one player, you know what? There's 52 others in the locker room. So it's not that big of a deal to me. And I'll tell you guys another story. All right. Dominic Raiola one time, one of my favorite athletes to cover. Yeah. But Dominic Raiola got so angry about something. I do remember what it was about, but it just
when I called him a dunderhead.
There was one point in time where he like taped, I don't know what it was, maybe like a 4 by 8 foot square around his locker. And for like a week, he was like, nobody comes in here, no media allowed in here. I don't want to talk to any of you guys. He was so upset about something, right? And so I get that, right? Sometimes people need to breathe and they need space and they don't want to deal with something, or they think something that you wrote was wrong or off base. But I love Dom because he also understood that was part of it, right? You could get mad, or I could get mad, and then 2 days later you can be like, you know what, I gotta, you blow it off, right? That's part of the job. That just because I write something negative doesn't mean I hate you as a person or I hate what you're about or anything. It's just, that's part of the job. And I think, I can understand why someone doesn't want to talk to me if I write something negative, and hopefully they can understand that when I'm writing something negative, that's not to demean them in any way. That's just happens to be my opinion on whatever happened on the field or off the field.
Well, Dave, that's all well and good, but I wonder how you'd feel if that girls' basketball team wasn't undefeated.
Yeah, season is over right now. We did not have an undefeated year. We had we did not play in our league. Our school year got canceled, so we had to go play somewhere else. But I'm fortunate that I don't have to go through a 1-9 season with my girls or something like that, and have to deal with all the negative questions that come from the media that covers middle school girls basketball.
Well, we're looking at some comments on our Facebook Live feed, and there's a Burkett Jr. who's talking about regime change. You can probably review some of those comments at your leisure.
My daughter's at field day right now. She is not watching this.
She's got a smartphone. These kids are everywhere, Dave. You got to know that. But and nice cursing in front of your kid when the Damakong Sioux calls. What kind of father are you?
She had to be like 9 months. She had no idea. In fact, I almost dropped her. I was like, whoa.
Nice child care, Burkett. What are you, a Lions receiver?
Yeah.
Jeez, you didn't complete the fathering process on the kid just because some dude called you from Oregon?
That's why I got to make it up to her now and coach her basketball team every year. So
okay, well,
trying to make up for past sins.
That's fine. It's a lot of making up to do, but it's okay. It keeps you out of the memoir anyway. Well, Dave Burkett, Detroit Free Press beat reporter extraordinary, guy who's willing to stand up to the big boys. And when I say that, I mean literally to the very large people and tell them that maybe they didn't have the best game. We appreciate you joining us here. How do people follow you? And of course, we really believe that everyone listening should subscribe to the Free Press and the News for that matter to support this kind of independent journalism, this fearless journalism, this tell it like it is journalism that sometimes we got to tell you what you don't want to hear, but that's the way the truth works.
Yeah. Support your local papers, freak.com for us. Obviously you can follow me on Twitter, but I really want you to follow Sean out there. Give Sean a follow. I think, he was talking about the social media presence earlier. So let's make sure that S Windsor, I think it is, right? S Windsor, is that what it is?
It is, but I really don't tweet much. Occasionally I tweet my column out because I'm told to by our bosses, Dave. But yeah, I know Twitter's not.
I'm
really
on
my
Twitter
thing.
a lot, but not as much as I used to be. Dave Burkett on Twitter. There. Yeah, let's see.
Well, Dave, thanks for the great work. We'd love to have you on again for that special Super Bowl edition. We just celebrated our 100th episode. If you're still around for our 900th episode, we will do that. So
I was thinking 1,000. So hey, you beat me to it. But yeah, let's do it. We'll do it then. No
See,
problem.
I'm one of those Lions guys. Like Mark said, I hate the Lions, but I'm still hopeful. So
well, he doesn't hate him; he loves him. Thanks for joining us, Dave. Is what Mike's trying to say.
You got it, guys. Talk again.
All right, take care, man.
It's just a weird thing to have to. Can you imagine every day after work to be interviewed about what happened?
Oh,
I don't think it's that hard. I don't think players. I think they could talk a little more, but I don't.
Well, the players don't.
The whole thing's kind of weird.
The same players don't talk every day. The coaches do mostly. And the coaches are generally more interesting to talk to anyway because they're the ones that are kind of in control and setting the strategy, and they kind of answer.
Well, like you said, your bosses make you tweet, right? Or they want you to tweet.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you do that? How do you make somebody do that?
Well, I try to tweet the columns out occasionally, and but you're right. They can't really make me be a funny, engaging, charismatic person.
They're not friggin' magicians.
Because I'm none of those things, right? Obviously.
Jesus Christ would have his hands full.
Yeah,
with you.
no, I'm just a fat, bald, kind of slob. So I'm never going to be those things on Twitter.
And if you had more hair, I know where you could go. To get it cut. That would be Lady Jane's. They can make you look and feel like a king. And they have a store in Brighton now. They have 2 stores in Brighton. This new one's on the corner of East Grand River and Whitmore Lake Road in front of Kroger. You can let one of their talented stylists give you an award-winning haircut, invigorating shampoo, hot lather neck shave, the hot towel treatment for just a great price. Don't procrastinate. Keep your hair looking its best. Get to Lady Jane's today. You can check out all the sites online, ladyjanes.com. It is wicked awesome.
Oh man, the geeks have inherited the earth.
Did I do that?
What a dork.
Does him wanting to play with us again mean that he's turning into a geek, or we're turning into cool guys?
So at the risk of being accused of making a gratuitous Kilpatrick reference, I will say something Dave mentioned really resonated with me. Covering Dennis Archer, who I think was an outstanding mayor, was not nearly as exhilarating as covering a mayor who was, a disaster.
Yeah, you don't want it to be boring, I would assume, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, what's it like?
You're not rooting for bad things to happen, but you're just
you want the challenge, right? You want something. You want to. I think most people get into journalism because they feel like their work will help make the world better. If you're covering somebody who's already making the world better, you're sort of like, what the hell am I doing here? You're just kind of making hash marks on the wall.
Was that Geek of the Week music I heard subliminally or no?
No, it was nothing subliminal about it.
So I did hear it. He just hadn't gotten to the Geek of the Week
Exactly.
yet. Okay, sorry.
Well, you know why? I want to try and be positive here. So before we get to our Geek of the Week, let me tell you about David Hall.
Oh.
Definitely not a geek.
Nice.
Very nice man.
Nice.
He golfs left-handed and right-handed, all that other stuff. That doesn't really matter because the key is he'll get you a mortgage at a super.
So he can make money for you with both hands. Is what you're saying.
He can help you make money hand over fist, perhaps, is what you're thinking.
All right, fine. That's better.
Okay, anyway, mortgage
Just
rates
humor
are
him.
still in the 2s, but I would not count on that lasting forever. So if you want to find out how much you can save by refinancing, call David Hall at 248-308-5000. That's 248-308-5000. Talk to my man, Dan Morrison, or even Mr. Jameson Quimby Bentley. Some people know him as Jim, but it's Mr. Bentley to you. If you want to go to their website, go to our website, mlsoulofdetroit.com. Hit that link. It will take you to the Hall Financial website, and they will help you figure out how you can start saving money every month on your refi. And of course, you start saving immediately because while they process your paperwork, you get to skip a payment or two, which is pretty handy. So go to Hall Financial today, 248-308-5000, NMLS 146-7435. I always try and drag that out because I just like thinking about doing business with David Hall. I think I got it.
Or are you trying to think about where you're supposed to go next?
No, I'm coming up on 18 months, so I think it's just about time for me to refinance that last deal I did with them because the rates are still low enough that it's worth it. But from the high and mighty to the down and dirty, we go to Viviana Keon, and I put the phonetic pronunciation here too. I still blew it.
Who is she? Who is that lady?
Viviana Quiones. She is not a household name. But when she jumped up and punched a flight attendant in the face, knocking out 2 of her chicklets, she became just the latest example of an all too common phenomena. That's passengers who are going nuts on the people who bring you salted nuts, and if you're really nice, maybe half a can of Coke. Quinones was on a Southwest flight from Sacramento to San Diego when she apparently misunderstood the company's motto that you are now free to rain blows on the help, and she attacked a flight attendant. Transport Workers Union Local 556 reported 477 such cases of passenger misconduct on Southwest alone between April 8th and May 15th. But they're not the only ones with a problem. The Federal Aviation Administration is reviewing 1,300 reports of unruly behavior since February alone. Now, in the previous 10 years, they had 1,300. So it took them 10 years to get 1,300 complaints. We're talking about, 4 months. And we have 1,300. So if you're on a plane, these are hard jobs. The flight attendants are not paid very much. The hours can be brutal. The lifestyle can be very, very challenging. Can you not punch them in the face?
Well, the punishment never seems to be big enough for these people that start shit on.
Well, they usually get banned from that airlines, but is that
you fly another one?
Yeah, exactly.
Should have a no-fly list.
I'm all for giving a parachute. Just saying, hey, you want to do whatever you want? Why don't you do it during the free fall?
Speaking of which, did you guys see the video of the guy that jumped out of a plane at 24,000 feet without a parachute?
No.
And landed into netting?
In the netting?
Into netting. He landed into netting that was suspended off the ground and kind of.
So this was a stunt. This wasn't just like
this was a couple of days ago. No, he jumped out of a plane with no parachute and landed in netting from 24,000 feet. Huh. Anyway.
I would like to do that if I could do that.
Yeah.
That sounds cool. Free fall? That would be awesome.
Yeah. I was told by a couple of friends that was crazy white people shit.
Oh.
That's racist.
You know, that's what I was told.
It's just so crazy it worked. Has he done this before? I take it this is not somebody who just decided.
Yeah, he's a thrill stunt guy type, but yeah, jumping out of a plane with no chute. Anyway, back to your giving him shoots.
Diatribe.
Yeah.
Viviana Quinones.
How about this? What the fuck is going on in the skies?
You're our geek of the week. Fight the real enemy, Spirit Airlines. Good work.
7609. And you can dance together all night. You've got the time.
Need to remind everybody that overreaction's not the best strategy if you want to be a long-term investor, so call our buddy Luke Nowacki, Pinnacle Wealth, 248-663-4748. He's going to provide rational financial advice. It's the best kind of financial advice you can get. What are you going to do with all your equities, your bonds? Where do you move money to? You got a 401k, 529. Do you even start a 529? Does your company have the right investments? He can do all that for you. Get advice, get a strategy. Call Luke Nowacki at Pinnacle Wealth, 248-663-4748.
The market's down. Sell. No, Luke wouldn't do that because he doesn't panic. He just makes it all about you, sweetheart.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through Royal Alliance Associates Inc. Member FINRA SIPC. Royal Alliance Associates Inc. is separately owned, and other entities and or marketing names, products, or services referenced here are independent of Royal Alliance Associates Inc.
Damn it, it is down just a little bit, but don't worry about it, folks.
Yeah, don't overreact. I just told you that.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I should have been listening. Listener Kim caught my passing reference to Adamant the other day and pointed out that we haven't featured this new romantic new wave icon in room 7609. So she writes, I would like to give you Here Comes the Grump for a listen, not just because he will make an obvious jokes about it being Sean's theme music. And she says, for the record, I don't agree, but because it's a great song. I especially like the overlapping melodies at the beginning of the song. So to keep Kim happy and the Sean Windsor fan club listening, here's Here Comes the Grump by Adam Ant. Or Adam and the Ants.
You have 8 more seconds if you want to walk it up.
Or Little Insects who rock and roll in new wave music. That's more than anything.
Number one, the only way is down. And if you have a sticky patch, they start looking around. When you get a number one, the only way is down. And if you have a sticky patch, say start looking around. Listen close to what men say, take what you want, what you want, what you want, what you want, and throw the rest away. Listen close to what men say, take what you want, what you want, what you want, what you want, and throw the rest away. In a night when the things go bump, think of me, think of comes the ground, think of me, here comes the ground, think of me, here comes the ground. Doctor said that doom sex kills, so come inside, come inside, come inside, come inside, come inside and die. Doctor said that dumb sex kills, so come inside, come inside, come inside, come inside, come inside and die. When you get a number one, the only way is down. And if you have a sticky patch, they start looking around. Take number one, the only way is down. And if you have a sticky patch, they start looking around. When you get a number one, the only way is down. And if you have a sticky patch, they start looking around. In the night when things go bump, think of me, think it comes the ground, think of me. Here comes the ground, here comes the ground. In the night when things go bump, think of me, think here comes the ground, think of me, here comes the ground, think of me, here comes the ground.
Not a bad little ditty by my man Stuart Leslie Goddard, better known as Adam Ant. Anybody remember him from the early days of MTV, Goody Two Shoes?
I was just going to say that's the only song I know. Is that terrible?
Stand and Deliver is my favorite Adam Ant song. It's an excellent song. Stand and Deliver Your Money or Your Life.
I like the guitar in that song you played.
Yeah, it's not a bad tune.
Yeah, it's got that sort of like Dave Edmunds, jangly, rockabilly sort of resonance.
A little bit. Mm-hmm.
Whatever happened to him?
Well, he's become an actor. And he was a very, very pretty young man, very handsome, and he was almost more of a fashion symbol than an artist, a musical artist.
Just like artists today.
So he got into some movies. I'm trying to think. He was in one where I think he was like sort of a punky rebel type. Talk about stereotyping, But he's playing music again. He had this this thing where when his first band, Adam and Ants, came together, they were doing pretty well. So he went to Malcolm McLaren, sort of the super producer of the punk new wave, new romantic movement in England at the time, who put together the Sex Pistols and a bunch of other things. And he said, in a distinctly Marley Bone accent, which I won't even try and replicate, that to the great disappointment of all, that he wanted Malcolm to produce his band. And instead, Malcolm McLaren stole his band and put them into Bow Wow Wow. And so they became, they became the backing band for Annabella.
The girl in Bow Wow Wow.
Yeah. So Kim says that they also used double drum kit for their drum heavy sound, as well as bloop for Mark. I'm not sure what that means, but
I know what it means.
Mark knows. Anyway, she also points out something that we were trying very hard to not point out, that Annabelle was only 13 when she made those very steamy videos with Bow Wow Wow and I Want Candy. So that was Malcolm's kind of a creep on every level. But anyways, that is Adam and the Ants with Here Comes the Grump from a huge Sean fan, Kim, who says, I really enjoy the show. Thank you. So
thank you, Kim. How do we donate?
Oh, wow. Sometimes less is more.
This is the part of the show where Sean just puts the pedal to the metal.
By the way, small bit of trivia with Adam and his mother.
Yes. Now he's purposely going slow.
His mother once cleaned Paul McCartney's houses.
Seriously?
Oh,
no, that's a bloop.
Good tidbit.
That's a total bloop.
Yeah.
So there you go. Okay. Yeah, if you want to contribute to the show, you can always suggest some great songs for Room 7609.
So what if his mom cleaned? Whatever.
Just
I don't even want to go. It's a 30-minute conversation.
Yeah.
You know, and how, you know, what are the odds that Sir Paul, as Adam Ant's mother was cleaning his house, ever thought, someday that bloke's going to be bigger than me?
No, that's just coincidence.
Yeah, I know, but the joke was that
no, I know. I
ended up
understood
being
the
much
joke.
bigger than Paul McCartney, who really didn't amount to much after.
So how can we know?
Just give us some money. We'll take it. Let's go
Okay.
to
I'd love the David Letterman ruffling the paper trick, but come on.
This is so I don't strangle people. This is to keep my hands busy so they don't cause crime. You can go to drewandmikestore.com and make a donation. Brant sent a generous donation with the following note: keep the laughs coming.
How about starting them?
I was going to say, he's obviously listening to an earlier edition of the show. Brandon also kicked in 2 more bags of cans, which are outstanding. They're helping cover the cost of the skate that I started doing on Saturday mornings with Drew and Mike and Solar Detroit listener Ryan. So thank you, Brandon, for the funds, and Ryan, thank you for the skate. You can get your comments on the air.
I feel like there was no context there as to Brandon donating cans.
He donated cans, yeah. It's he's donated in many ways. He donates the cans, which provides funds so I can play more hockey, and he also donates the garbage bags that the cans come in so I can save money buying garbage bags. I'm just trying to help save the earth.
They're so cheap.
One scroungy life experience at a time. I don't think I was spotted returning cans this time though, which is good. I changed locations to try and avoid becoming some sort of meme. If you want to get your comments on the air, you can always attach them with your donation. Just put a little note in your PayPal frame. And please, most importantly, let our sponsors know that you learned about them from listening to the show, because that keeps them coming back. Yesterday was the very last day to get in on the Detroit Bikes Special Soul of Detroit 100th episode commemorative edition, a handmade, custom-built, in Detroit bike. You can go to drewandmikestore.com and try and order one if you want, but we won't sell it to you. But you just try us. We also still have plenty of good stuff there. Masks, gaiters. Oh, so passe. Keychains are still cool. T-shirts, long sleeve T-shirts, hockey jersey stickers, signed Kwame Sutras, all kinds of groovy swag there. And we would appreciate if you'd subscribe to the show, share the show, rate the show. But most of all, just love the show, because we're feeling a little unloved. Last week, Chloe wrote from West Village, what is the city going to do with that $879.6 million in COVID relief from the funds? Well, Chloe, as it happens, that very evening, Mayor Duggan held the first of 25 meetings to discuss with residents how the city should spend that money. And he laid out his plan, which calls for spending $100 million to fight intergenerational poverty, $100 million to improve neighborhoods, $100 million on parks, recreation, and cultural resources, $50 million on public safety, $50 million to reduce the digital divide, or as Kilpatrick would have called it, deleting the digital divide, and $26 million to assist businesses with grants, facade improvements, and off-street parking. I was able to participate in that meeting, and I'll tell you, $26 million to support businesses in the neighborhoods does not seem like nearly enough, but there will be 24 of these meetings. If you want to find out more, go to detroitmi.gov/ARPA, ARPA, which I believe is the American Relief Plan of America, something like that. But check it out. These are easy to participate in. Some will be in person, some will be virtual. You can call in, you can Zoom in, and they will take your question and you can have your voice heard. So please, if you're a Detroiter and you want to make sure that we get this money spent in the best way, be heard on that issue. Michelle wrote and asked Sean for a copy of his Don Williamson story. Did you ever send that to Michelle?
I did.
You did? Really?
I did.
Wow. Did she respond?
She did. She read it and then
cancel her subscription.
Yes, she did. No, she was very kind in her response. And then she suggested another piece, and I can't escape the Detroit News had done. So, but no, it was that was nice of her.
Look at Sean.
You were totally expecting to bust him, weren't you?
Oh, I absolutely.
I went into LexisNexis and
Michelle
dug it out.
Is that another Paul McCartney reference?
Wow, that's a lot of work.
I was curious too. You know, it's not as in my mind it was one thing, and I read it or at least part of it. And I was like, eh.
Yeah, so actually,
so she was probably just being nice.
Yeah, now that I think about it, Sean, I don't want you promoting the show. This week's episode I thought was pretty good.
No,
the
podcast. The podcast is lovely and fun and great. But it's you and Mark. I'm just kind of a tag along.
Stop it.
If I do my own thing, then it's horseshit.
No, I don't think that's true.
I'm happy to promote y'all.
If anything, I would say maybe too many tag-alongs. So.
You mean skin tags?
Milk duds? No, the Girl Scout cookies.
Oh yeah.
Delicious. Well, we challenge readers to help Sean extricate his great work from the archives. You can find it at freep.com. And I know I say this only to be disappointed, but do we have any really cool voicemails?
Nothing for air.
From people.
We'll talk about it afterwards.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Oh
No. People that just.
Oh boy. Well, you can call 313.
Why do you automatically go to the negative?
Well, if it's not for air, I mean, we put some crazy shit on here. That's got to be pretty bad.
No, it's just not. They have questions for you regarding other things that aren't for the podcast.
So,
but you automatically went to the negative. Thought it was bad. Maybe.
Yeah, exactly. So we don't want to bore people with our backstage bullshit.
Attitude, man.
They're just after me cans. And blue diamonds.
Okay.
No. It read so much funnier on the page. Endorsements are rolling in for the ML4 Detroit candidacy. We will be posting the latest news, major endorsement on our social media. You can follow my campaign at ML4 Detroit. Oh yes, big. The first of 3 major endorsements will be rolling out. You can follow me on social media at Elric and then ML Elric on Facebook. But if you want to get the latest on the campaign, you can go to ML4 Detroit on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. You can find out what's going on with the campaign. And there's ways for you to get involved. We did a major cleanup a couple of weeks ago. We're looking to do another one. And we would love to have you.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I was actually trying to talk about it before, and I was shouted down. And instead of standing strong to help inspire and bring people together for positive change, I allowed myself to be bullied.
Oh, more grievance. More grievance. Grievance everywhere.
I regret that. But,
as Jordan Peterson says, sort yourself out, bucko.
Who's Jordan Peterson? Is that the guy who killed his wife?
He's the Canadian academic psychiatrist who's beloved by a lot of folks on the right.
Oh.
But that's his thing. Sort yourself out, bucko. So sort yourself out.
Oh, I'm glad to see where you're getting your wisdom these days.
Yeah.
What's the latest with Tucker and Sean and the boys? And by that, I mean Laura Ingraham.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. Speaking of Tucker, he's got a pal with a show on the network, Mr. Charlie LaDuff. You should check out his No BS News Hour. And if you have, 5 seconds to spare, let me tell you the story of my life. If you have 3 hours to spare, let me tell you what's going on with the Drew and Mike podcast, which is every day on the Red Shovel Network, except on the days when they're not. So check that out. And since Dave Burkett's gone, we're way overdue to tell Cyrus to take us out.
There you go.
So Cyrus, if you don't mind, put us out of our misery.
Can you dig that? Can you?
Nothing like finishing strong.
Yes.
Right
through the tape.
Any given Tuesday, a hero will rise.
Make me a believer.
And on any given Tuesday, tradition will be broken.
He's changing.
The intros.
Just does what he likes.
You run the plays, I call.
I've been warming the bench the whole time I've been in the pros. I don't plan on going back. You're a king in your own mind.
He may sell a lot of t-shirts, this kid, but he's tearing his team apart.
Well, then you hold it together.
Knock it off.
Why the hell do you think my father put me in charge, of bullheaded moron? You got old. No intensity. No victory. Where the hell is your intensity?
ML.
Any given Tuesday, podcasting is a contact sport.
Drop the boogie.